Exactly what happens when you send the peons. Grubby knows best. They're going to finish their work.
They work.
Yeah.
Victory or death.
Exactly. So thank you guys for your patience. And we're back here with Misfits versus EE. We've just seen the draft. And we came to the conclusion that, EE, they're all about wave clear and patiently waiting. Whereas Misfits, they're much more in the driving seat. They want to engage battles and they want to come out strong. Who would you give sway to in those engage versus passive team comps normally?
I'm playing mediator. The entire break that we just had, we sat down. It was mostly Dread and Grubby going back and forth on the team comps. I don't know. I feel like Grubby felt one way, Dread felt the other.
I'm going Misfits.
Yeah, show us your arguments, guys. I want to hear that discussion.
That Rhaegar provides enough to accent wave clear when it comes to shrine control, enough more than TAS. So.
And EE can really capitalize on any Immortal victory, any Punisher victory.
Right. Okay, without further ado, guys, we kept you waiting long enough. The casters are ready, and so are we. So, Gilly and Todd, let's get us to Infernal Shrines.
Thank you, Kendrick. Gilly here, along with Todd, to determine who our first semi-finalist from this group will be. And we have ExcelenteEleccion EE in the blue with Zarmany playing Tassadar, Mopsio playing ETC, Gren Paquete on Brightwing, Xylia playing Kael'thas, and Cilium on Sylvanas.
And the opposite team is going to be Misfits, of course, with Nurok playing Liming, Muradin played by Blumby, Darkmok on the Sonya, Hazuos playing Tychus, and Splendor on the Rhaegar.
So we got to hear the panel's thoughts on compositions. Do you have a favorite between the two, Todd?
I would say Misfits, probably. I like their draft a little bit better. Maybe I have bias because, I like them a lot as well, and I know that they're one of those very good teams. Potentially the favorite here to do well, finish in first place. In which case they would face Fnatic in the semifinals tomorrow. That's a match I want to see.
Oh man, me too. I have to kind of root for them just for that because I would love to see that match. But Excelente, EE, they have the Brightwing, and we all know how much I love Brightwing. Xylia has been playing really, really well this event. I'm not sure though. They're relying a lot on ETC, the power slide with the Kael'thas follow-up, and Mopsio seemed to be letting the nerves get to him a little bit, which you can definitely understand.
Well, it was his placement, really, that was the problem. Like, in terms of engagements, for the most part, they were okay. There were a few weird moments, but one thing he's got going for him is, I guess, he's got some decent warm-up as ETC, because he's been playing it a lot already.
Yeah, definitely a favorite of Mopsio for sure, but a few of their games have been where they've been ahead and then something happens. They stay too long, definitely at a keep, and that's really come back to bite them. But we'll see how they're able to do with Misfits, especially because the last time we saw Misfits play on this battleground, a pretty similar composition. They don't have Sylvanas, but they still have Tychus, they have Rhaegar, and they have Sonya. And they've shown how brilliant of rotations they can have, sending Sonya to pick up a mercenary camp while the rest push in a different lane.
Yeah, they made it look really good, that Tychus plus Sonya comp. And I really wonder if that's one of their standard, composition that they just think is solid in general, or is it situational? Do they just want to use this here in the first group stage phase, or if they move on to face Fnatic, could we see that come out? Again, I guess we're going to have to wait and find out, and here in the first place to see if they can even make it work against ExcelenteEleccion.
Cilium may be in trouble. Here comes the Arcane Orb. Xylia's going to block it, but gets very low himself, hit by a Stormbolt, and that will be first blood going to Misfits.
Cilium barely gets out there.
Grenade.
That was almost a double kill.
I was worried about the grenade, but there's no range there yet, so it won't be a double kill. Cilium getting away. First Shrine now active, and it'll be a few seconds now before EE are in a position where they can start setting up. But Darkmok already hard at work here to take out these skeletal defenders.
That's going to be a very healthy lead here on the skeletons. When you let Sonya get up on that Shrine, she's going to have a very easy time, just spin to win, collect the skeletons, and it looks like ExcelenteEleccion might even just completely forego going to that Shrine and trying to fight for that Punisher there.
They can utilize everything that Sylvanas brings to a composition and have her shut down the structures and get experience that way. As you can see, they're tied up with structures and try to push again with this next wave before they have to go back and start defending versus the Punisher.
Yeah, a slight experience lead from ExcelenteEleccion here so far, who are just staying for a huge part at the bottom. Actually, they're grouping up with 4 here. I think they were hoping to try and catch somebody. Not gonna quite be able to.
Sonya just about to finish the Shrine now. We'll see what they want to do to defend, as well as how much Misfits want to dedicate to this push. Of course, not having Sylvanas this time, so may not want to go for a 5-man push versus having somebody in each lane to start getting ahead of EE in experience toward their level 7 talents, but Sonya was able to clear that up pretty quick. She picked up the Shattered Ground talent at level 4, and that helps her with the extra splash damage to take those down even faster.
Yeah, Cilium taking a lot of damage here, gonna have to be careful. And again, I'm pretty sure that from ExcelenteEleccion, the goal's gonna have to kind of be hang in there, get eventually one of their own Punisher, and then capitalize on it with the Sylvanas. Zalmoni in the previous games when he was on Leoric, or even any warrior that he was on, he just didn't seem to die almost ever. He's on Tastadar now. I expect a pretty solid game and probably 0 deaths here from him. Ideally,
true.
obviously.
Especially once he gets to 13.
Yeah, becomes much easier here to make sure he can get away.
The teams are getting back out into the lanes, soaking up to 7. Very close in experience, despite losing that first shrine is at EE, as they'll start to pick them up. Manic Pixie, we saw that before when Grand Piquete and some of the other Brightwing players, everybody I think picking up Unfurling Spray, but grabbing Manic Pixie to give more healing to whomever has that Pixie Dust, but still getting cleansed too, because there is some lockdown from Misfits, and that will mean less shielding overall from Brightwing. But with Tastar there to help out, that'll help bridge that gap.
Relentless Soldier here on the Tychus. Gonna make it a lot worse to use stunts and disables. And for the most part, both teams are really grouped up. We've got 4 heroes here in the middle of the map from Misfits, and 4 at the bottom here until a second ago from EE. So just grouping up, trying to take out some of these map objectives and camps. Meanwhile, Sonya and Grand Paquete are having a one-on-one at the top, where nobody's really taking any damage because they're both healing up quite nicely.
And teams have really been focusing on trying to take out towers whenever they can, so that they get more out of Punishers once the shrines come out. And especially when you have a Sylvanas too, that's a nice win to get those down, because if you do win one of these objectives, there's no ability for your opponents to bait the Punisher over the gate and have those few seconds of safety to take it down while your opponents work down the towers. You, especially versus Sylvanas, pretty much just have to give up the fort completely and hope to bait it over at the keep.
EE already have an experienced lead here, so Misfits are going to get the head start on that shrine there, but I think if Brightwing stays on top here for a very long time, it's going to be good for them in terms of increasing that experience lead even more, and maybe even trying to get a level 10 and fight. The thing is, they can only do that for so long. If they let go of this Punisher here, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and Misfits are clearing this up very quickly, faster even than maybe she's going to be able to get them heroic abilities. The one nice thing is Misfits won't have their own heroics for pushing along with the Punisher, but even still, EE want to be getting one themselves. Mopsio does not get phase shifted in on time. That'll be the end of ETC. Nearly Zarmony using Dimensional Shift defensively, and that's it. Misfits get a kill and a shrine, and now are almost caught up in experience.
And that's the Arcane Punisher here, the very scary one that's going to do a lot of damage here in that location. Grand Paquete never had any intention of rejoining anybody, just stayed at the top for a very long time. He pushed through that wall here with the mercenaries, and now that bottom fort's going to be on the threat, and it's probably going to go down.
One thing that EE always have going for them is we've seen Mopsio be able to turn a game around with a very amazing mosh pit, hitting I think 3 or 4 people. So we have a lot of ways of dealing with that now too. Getting Wave of Force, which will be really key, making sure that Li Ming stays away from the other people who can interrupt those mosh pits, so they don't give EE any way of coming back into this, especially because off of winning a fight, even if there's no objective, even if there's no Punisher, they still have Sylvanas, so they'll take a lot of structures down with them.
Are you sad every time we see Wrath of the Berserker instead of Leap?
Always.
You just want that scream. They should just add it to Wrath of the Berserker as well, have the same scream.
They should! Blizzard, please.
And just gonna get one of these camps here for now. Both teams gonna invest some time into that. Still very equal actually on the experience here. Both teams making sure they stay toe-to-toe on that. Mopsio, it's interesting because sometimes he has great plays and he lands a great mosh pit, but then the next thing you know, there's been a couple placements that have been really weird, very uncharacteristic, and where it felt like he died and threw away a big lead for his team. So he's gonna have to be careful. It could be the deciding key factor in some of these fights.
Yeah, it's hard for a team when you are really depending on one thing like that to go right. But if they can get that and use the Sylvanas, they always have the potential to come back structurally, and they're not far behind. They've only lost a fort at this point. As you said, they've been very good at split pushing. They have Tassadar in one lane while they have Brightwing in another, and then 3 people in the third or something else like that while they're picking up any sort of mercenary camp. So Brand Paquete, Brightwing has been constantly up in this top lane, never letting the waves push in so that he can keep his team up in experience despite the fact that they have lost out on all the objectives and have lost 2 kills.
It's we see a lot more Emerald win. It's almost as if Blink Heal doesn't even exist anymore in the game. I guess when you play against Sonya, Muradinho, and Regard that could get up close, it's encouraging to go for that, to push them back. It's definitely interesting to see, you know, the shift every single time in the meta from one heroic to another.
Her build was massively changed when all of her changes came in. The first one that came out with the initial Gul'dan patch, and then the second one even to Dark Body Blocked, but getting away.
It's gonna be all right for now.
Yeah, probably gonna look to get into this as soon as they get 13. The better placement over the Shrine is here for EE for now, but Wrath of the Berserker is down.
The only heroic that is down here right now, so Misfits, they might have to pull back a little bit. They're not even level 13 here just yet. Neither team is, but they're gonna hit it at about the same time.
Ahead in Skeletal Defenders is Misfits. The poke starting to come in, but what is good for dealing with poke? A double support, and so they're staying pretty healthy. Hasselhoff's trying to throw out overkill. Wrath of the Berserker will be up in a few more seconds with 13 here. That might be Misfits' time to get into the battle.
Yeah, they're being very patient, staying spread out, making sure that no mosh pit could land on all of them. And Darkmog, maybe getting a little bit overeager. He actually, ETC knocked him away here from that gravity lapse.
And a beautiful Emerald wind, but it puts Blumby in a great position to take out Brightwing because she was forward trying to separate the team. Cillian about to go down 30 hit points, but he gets away. Mopsio may not be so lucky, shielding from Tassadar coming in, trying to keep him alive. Blumby diving pretty deep here to get this kill.
I don't know about this turnaround here, Mopsio. You might want to run away and finally heal, but that's going to be a sure here Punisher for the Misfits, and he's going to be the frozen one here, pushing towards the top. They're all already there. This could do so much damage as well. Take out the fort quite easily, go straight for the keep if they wanted to.
Yeah, they'll take out the fort first.
Yeah, we're not very late in the game, so that Punisher is not going to be that strong. Like if ExcelenteEleccion does a very good job of pulling that one inside towards their keep, they're going to be able to defend it easily, but not even opting to push here very hard.
I think realizing like what you realized, right? That they won't be able to do too much with this early game. So instead, if they take out towers and maybe this fort in mid, they're opening up the map for later game pushes with future Punishers.
We've got the level 13 talents, by the way, that came into play. Earth Shield here on Rhaegar at level 13. Illusionist once more on the Liming, and Spray and Pray on the Tychus.
This Calamity build, for a long time, it was a Magic Missile build, but Calamity now, as teams have realized how amazing it is at being able to clear waves, do damage to even the Shrine Guardians, but then to do damage when you jump in and utilize her resets. You could just teleport straight through a fight once you get one and kill an entire team very quickly. We've seen it in Korea, we're seeing it used in North America, and now here as well in Europe. It's the favorite.
Whoa. What a ninja. Just went right on top of that wall here. That Draken Laser Drill didn't even really come into play that much in the last fight. You know, they just kind of disengage. You feel like ExcelenteEleccion, they're just gonna have a really hard time throughout the entire game, just winning fight. They're highly dependent on the mosh pit, but against somebody as solid as Misfits, you can never expect them to clump up well enough so that he's gonna land big time. Cillian taking so much damage, he's gonna be able to get out again. So far,
Bobby was on the chase.
Wow, okay, well, the Emerald Wing got shut down very fast here.
Yeah.
As Brightwing exploded.
That is the problem when you want to get right into the middle of your opponents and Emerald win people away, is you're right in the middle of your opponents as a Brightwing who can't blink heal back to your teammates.
Careful what you wish for. And level 16 against 14 now, Misfits with some incredible momentum here. They took out 2 fort as well. Like, sure, they took some damage on their own, but if they keep this up here, they could be getting the next Punisher and doing even more damage. Sonya at the bottom, I really like this, actually, getting 1 camp here in the meantime. And that she's probably going to finish this before the Shrine is activated.
Timing.
Yeah. The fort's already gone, so, I mean, this camp is going to start walking on the wall at the bottom.
and they are 16. So now EE faces the decision of, do we let them have another Punisher for free? Do we try to use Sylvanas probably in another lane? Maybe go bottom. That fort has already taken some damage.
Yeah.
They could go there, get their 16 talents so that they at least have it for the defense.
What Punisher is it gonna be though?
I don't know. We're about to
Maybe,
find out. Oh, okay.
Oh wow, okay. Bad news. That's not the one you wanna let get away here. It's gonna be the Arcane one. Revealed as they activate that shrine. Gonna leave Sonya alone on the shrine. I think Misfits, they realize so fast what's going on. Every time, they look at the minimap, they're like, all right, I guess there's three bots. They're not gonna be trying to contest here. So they react perfectly. They go down there, they defend against the Sylvanas here. That fort trying to save it is still gonna go down though.
Goes down, and everyone from EE hasn't taken too much damage. There's 16 talents, but still, Sonya with 30 skeletal defenders, picking up the last few with the help of Tychus. Brightwing dealing with a camp that had been picked up top. And another Punisher going toward a damaged fort previously, as we had seen Misfits focusing on this lane. Again, we see them aggressively pushing in to take out the fort before the Punisher can take too much damage. There's the jump in. EE need to be careful here.
Yeah, they need to pull back behind the wall here. Try to pull that Punisher inside, maybe if they can. Characterize was picked on level 16 by Brightwing to try and maybe blow up whoever is at the front a little bit too far out.
Right, they have Critterized along with Cold Embrace, so several ways to make somebody vulnerable.
You're taking a lot of damage, mates. You have to be careful there. They're on a chase. Seems like he really wanted to fight here. They're getting a little bit desperate at this point, it feels like.
Right, 16 to almost 18, so they're running out of options. Here comes Blumby back in, staying spread out to avoid the mosh pit. Mopsio going off to the side to see if maybe you could come back in with it. Emerald Wind pushing everyone back. Mopsio goes down. Ancestral Healing brings Darkbot back into the fight, and he can continue. Now without ETC, they're looking at a keep.
Dark Mode, the ultimate warrior here, going forward, getting the snipe here on that ETC. And now it's going to be, look at that Drake and Laser, going to town here on that keep. Can they defend? Zarmony taking a lot of damage, but he's on the Tassadar. Should be all right. Sonya is going to get blown up, actually. And they could try and chase from here, but they don't have, I think, enough lockdown to make sure that they can get the snipe. So Misfits just going to disengage. And that keep took so much damage.
It did. This is the difference between Misfits and a team that's not quite at their caliber, right? Is they lose somebody, instant disengage. Other teams that we've seen playing today...
Hero League, we lose somebody, we go in.
Even Hero League, right? Full team wipes when you stay too long at a keep. No, they didn't take the keep down, but it is so low. If they win a big team fight now, if they team wipe EE, it's still low enough that you can bring that down very fast and then go for core.
Really nicely done here by Misfits, although they did finally have one of their hero taken out. Are they overextending here? EE is staying very far out here, almost... Most of the heroics are up. I guess Rhaegar's missing his, and so is Tychus. And maybe he knows that, actually. So they're going to stay a little bit longer, take out that fort, equalize those levels. Very nicely done. We're going to have potentially, I guess, same talents, but maybe one level ahead here. A fight in a second in Misfits' favor towards the top. It's a trap.
Lumby knows. He sees it. They have to clear out this wave before they can start to move up. And EE positionally a little bit better, maybe have an advantage, although pulling down.
Are we going to see a good mosh pit here eventually? I mean, it's so hard against this composition, right?
It's been very hard for Mopsio to get one of those. A lot of the ETCs we've seen too have had so much trouble with getting in, because by the time you finally find a place, you've been sitting around looking for it for so long that you're way too low and you just get bursted down. Blumby jumping in now too. Here comes Darkmonk as well. Boiling arrow on the back line, but it is done, and Mopsio still in a terrible place. Blown up. And that's another kill for Misfits. Sylvanas goes down, and here come the resets for Nurok. Already got one. Zarmony being chased down. Prescience is popped, but the chase continues.
Oh, Emerald Wind is going to be used here to try and push them back, but not quite enough here to save the Kalthas. The cleanse was actually beautiful in the start of the fight from Compact, and now Misfits, they're going to go straight for the core. I think maybe grab that keep here on the way, and with those timers being so long, they might be able to secure game number 1. It's level 20 against 18, and there is only 2 heroes here to try and defend.
Archon, pure power from Nurok. He is disintegrating all the way down. They're just protecting him. Graham Biquette jumps in, trying to stop him, but that will be it. Misfits take out EE in game number 1. Very convincing.
Absolutely here. 8 takedowns to 1, just solid from start to finish. This is what they're known for here, Misfits, and they really deliver here in this game. You know, going into this tournament, a lot of us, you know, talked about how we thought they were one of the favorites, and they go out there and they prove it once again. Solid all around too. It's not just, you know, in game, they draft properly, they play their composition very well from the start, and that Tychus-Sonya synergy is really starting to look good. I guess it might be a little bit map dependent. Obviously, you know, Sonya helps a lot on a map like this, but they're really making this look like, you know, it's just standard and it works out very well, whereas in reality, not many people run both Tychus and Sonya in their composition.
Even Sonya in general has not been seen in Europe this tournament until Misfits started playing and bringing her out a lot, showing that they're drafting differently. And it was mentioned before on a panel that they understand Double Warrior has been played for so long now, since Valencia, over multiple big patches, and they know what to do to counter it. But our panel is ready. Maybe not quite ready, but now they're ready to talk about game number 1 between Misfits and EE.
Thank you very much, Gilly. I mean, the panel was born ready, so we're always there when we're needed. Guys, 1-0 for Misfits. Expected outcome, but I gotta say EE looked a little bit wonkier than I thought they would be.
I thought they looked pretty okay in terms of their play. I feel like they crippled themselves with the resources that they had. Double support against Double Warrior without almost any initiation. I saw a lot of moments where ETC would just wait for a moment, power slide in, and then be forced back immediately because of that Tychus.
Yeah.
And they had a very defensive composition. They were at 0 takedowns for much of the game, until finally Sonya goes a little bit too deep, goes into the keep, gets force walled. But I would say a very predicted outcome based on the draft, not just the skill level of the teams.
You know what initiated that last team fight that was basically the end of the game? ETC power slid, and then the cleanse came out, and the gravity labs came from Kael'thas, and it was all downhill from there. Li Ming was able to get her angles. They weren't able to do anything. Kael'thas was on the retreat, and that was it. I mean, their priority targets and the lack, as you said, the lack of follow-up, that was their only initiation, and it was not that great.
And it can get out-cleansed. So
Yep.
power slide, gravity labs miss already, you don't get the bonus from gravity crush, and so on and so on.
Dred, something I wanted to address real quick here. We've seen the Archon 20 talent of Li Ming. Can you explain to the viewers out there why it was chosen? Because it's a rather rare talent, and before we unleash hordes of Li Ming players who do that on Hero League, let's hear from the pro.
All right, so it's unique. It's a situational one where I originally saw it, the Korean players were pulling it out, where because structures are so valuable now, like you can outrange the core, so when you're sieging onto the gore, you can kind of stay out of range, keep her protected, and she's typically one of the main characters you want to be like worried about focusing on. So because she stays out of the core, it's free siege to move on to that. It's also because keeps are more valuable. If you get 1 to 2 kills, you can send her out of keep range, start doing the damage, protect her, and gain value by getting those keeps. So like, it's a situational one. Definitely don't suggest just picking it up whenever you want. And it's almost only used for sieging, never for team fighting.
And almost only to finish the game.
Yes, it's almost never, like, it's very close to game ending before you pop it out.
Cool. So, you know, the Misfits are looking strong. Next battleground that we're going to play on is, of course, going to be Sky Temple. It's a little bit of a different mechanic. It's, you know, sooner or later, I always say the game is going to be determined or ended by the temples. There is usually not a whole lot of core rushing without a temple, unless, of course, you have already destroyed a couple of keeps. Which bans can we expect here? Maybe an early fall set, because on Infernal Shrines, it was actually neglected for the most part.
I think I'd like to see them worry more about they go with the Tyrael instead. I feel like Misfits has a lot of things up their sleeve that they're looking to pull. I feel like the Tychus is one. It's going to be a Zagara or a Falstad is another. Trying to let Misfits, like, we know that they want to build their compositions around countering Double Warrior. What if you force them into it, right? Just rather than playing this is the normal EU strategies, this is what we're going to be busting out, try and put Misfits in a little bit of a different playstyle that they may not be used to anymore.
And Misfits chose Falstad first indeed, and I think, Jeho, you once saw like how powerful Hazuops can be on that very specific hero.
Powerful is an understatement. I remember watching him. There was a Tomb of the Spider Queen map to where this guy made play after play after play, and I was an instant Hazuops Falstad fan. But they're moving through the draft really quickly. They're continuing to go into that Tychus, which is actually what Hazuops played last game, not on the Li Ming.
So maybe going to be Nuruk after all.
Well, we talked about how deep his hero pool is and how good he is. I mean, that guy is amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. You basically name a hero and he's got it. He can pull it out.
It's just like DreamHack Tours again, where they started off taking Lunara, like 4th pick, 5th pick, and then they were like, actually we're like super comfortable to take Lunara, even though none of the other teams have confirmed that our trend is going to be the meta. No one else is still contesting it. Let's just start taking it early, because they were experiencing counter bans. It's the same thing again here with Tychus.
Yeah, it's really cool to see like how Misfits keep being one of the trendsetters in Europe, especially when it comes to individual heroes that other teams weren't really utilizing as much.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really satisfying thing to see every time we watch the European scene. They feel like they are always the ones kind of stepping out, really thinking about why they're doing some of the things when it comes to draft overall, and it seems to be pretty well calculated in most situations, outside of maybe the Tracer approach that we saw at DreamHack Valencia. But now, Excelente, with all the bans coming out, they do have only the Rhaegar Zagara so far for them. Muradin and Tyrael are the only tanks going to be removed, so what are they going to move into? Tychus is already picked up. Again, they have to avoid the double melee, or the double warrior. They pick a new Barak, already feel like they needed a stronger warrior frontline. ETC would have been a fine one.
Also, Anubarak is a little bit weak. When I say a little bit, I mean a lot
of it.
against Tychus. Falstad is a hybrid auto attacker and mage. Generally, you take Anubarak against mages like Li Ming, so it's kind of a nice combination to take it with Li Ming. You take away one of the opponent's counter heroes, but he doesn't fare well against these two.
Dread, I want to talk about Misfits a little bit, because they're not traditionally running the double warrior, at least in the traditional sense, outside of Sonya. I mean, Grubby just talked about how Nubarak is taking away one of the counters to Li Ming, but I almost wonder if they could have gotten away with letting that through, because Misfits doesn't traditionally run it, and it's not something that I've seen from them before. I don't think it's out of the question. Are you surprised we're seeing Uther over Kyrus?
No, I'm trying to figure out the last pick. Is it going to be a Thrall, or are they going to go ETC?
Kerasim is banned.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Which is something I actually wanted to talk about. I mean, for one of the very first times we see a support being banned in this tournament, and it's a Kerasim.
I really want this to be a Thrall pick.
Oh.
Illidan, that's fine.
Nice.
They run the Illidan. It's going to be really powerful in this situation. Their laning phase they need to be very calculated on, because Zagara is going to be so dominant, and they run with the Arthas.
Illidan is so good against Zagara. Like every melee assassin has more value against Zagara because they can use all of her roaches to jump and to reposition, and she has trouble to keep them off of herself. So Arthas is a good pick to counter Illidan, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Are we going to see Cocoon here against the Uther?
I hope not.
No, I think, okay, so I've played a lot of Anubarak to counter Illidan before, and while Cocoon seems nice, because you take away a component, I feel like it's more suited to Abathur comps, because you reduce the amount of heroes to 3 sometimes, instead of from 5 to 4. Much bigger difference. Also, at the end of the day, Illidan cannot just be like isolated away. He's got a lot of time buying mechanics, for example, the usage of Metamorphosis and Divine Shield. If you go for Cocoon, you don't have enough damage at the end of the day. And in the end, you do need to damage him. And Locust Swarm, being spell damage, is more effective than auto attacks. It's a very important mechanic to deal with Illidan as well.
This is a pick that I'm kind of torn on, is mainly the Arthas on the side of Excelente. I feel like a lot of people see Arthas as a direct counter to Illidan, but I personally only feel like it's only a counter if you have more kill potential on the backline than Illidan does on yours. And when you look at the heroes that Illidan has to be moving on to, he's got Zagara, has a hard time being able to deal with him. Li Ming, terrible time being able to deal with him. Arthas then has to move back and peel, so no longer that concept of like, well, Arthas can split the backline. You literally just ignore the Arthas, Illidan dies onto your backline, he struggles, he pulls you back, and eventually they manipulate the team's fight into their favor in a lot of ways. It's only in situations where a Nubarak and Arthas get on the backline at equal timing that Illidan does, though I ever see this even getting close to an even trade.
But what are Arthas and Nubarak going to do against Falstad and Tychus?
Exactly. It's not even that it's pretty. It's just, in North America, we've seen it a lot, and in Europe specifically, I think we see it more just because Arthas is so dominant. They see Illidan and they go Arthas counter, but only when the kill potential is greater than Illidan on the backline. That is the only situation I genuinely think Arthas is a direct counter. Yes, he helps, but I mean, Arthas helps against any melee. To truly counter Illidan is only when he goes, you get on my backline and I'll go on yours, and I win this trade every time.
Yeah.
Would you look at somebody like Sonya to possibly fill that role as opposed to an Arthas? That way you can still do some damage as well as have some control?
All right, but Illidan, of course, now entering the battlefield, and it's going to be a very interesting one for sure. There's a lot on the line here. I mean, EE can only afford to lose one more time here. And we're going to find out who's going to come out on top here with our casters, Gilly and Todd.
All right, Todd, here we go for game number 2. Let's see if EE can bring it back and take it to the final match. We've got Zarmany playing a Nubarak, Mopsio and Arthas, Rhaegar played by Grand Piquete, Li Ming played by Xylia, and Celium we're playing Zagara. That is ExcelenteEleccion.
And their opponents, we've got Misfits with Nurok on the Tychus, Blumby on the Muradin, Darkmok is going to be playing the Illidan, Hazuops on Farstad, and the Uther is going to be playing by the infamous support, it's Splendor. Really looking forward to this one. Illidan here coming into play. We had a bit of, I would say maybe a little bit disappointing one come out earlier. It was against Misfits back then, so it kind of looked like a foolish attempt for a little bit, but now they're the ones using it, and they're the ones who are the favorites and who have been playing very well. So I'm expecting more success here.
Especially Darkmok. I feel like he's been very on point today with his Sonya play, so we'll see how his Illidan can do. And EE are looking for maybe an early push with Zagara in the bottom, but Misfits know that that is always a likely thing to expect versus Zagara, so they've got a lot of people here to stave off that initial aggression and not let them take out too much. Howling Blast will hit Hazuops, but he's going to get away from here.
Taking
Takes
a lot
bunch
of
damage though, yeah.
Which with Farstad is actually quite okay. He could just Hearthstone back home and then fly right back into the lane as soon as minions are actually back there to make sure he doesn't miss any. And we've got Reverberation actually picked on the Muradin here at level 1. You like that?
It slows down, like even Zagara's minions. So just the fact that it has those slows, obviously there's not clear auto attack, like it's not going to do too much with Li Ming, but it's nice that it can slow down those minions and maybe even slow down Zagara too and hit her. The big deal is, I mean, you don't really see too much else taken at that level 1 anymore for Muradin players.
Yeah, and Ghost Wolf on level 1 here on that Rhaegar. Looking to try and, I guess, escape maybe some dicey situations with that extra little bit of speed in Ghost Wolf form.
As the poll is showing Misfits a big favorite in this matchup. They're already up 1-0 over EE. Winning this will mean that they will face, whoever wins this match faces Fnatic in the semifinals, which is not, it's not saying like, oh, it's the easier team for sure, because Dignitas and Fnatic, very, very good.
I mentioned it many times, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but I really feel like there is a good chance it might be the qualifying match for BlizzCon as well. So a very, very important match here for Misfits, who are grouping up a little bit towards the middle. It's a 4-on-4 here, a little bit uncharacteristic. They are fighting for that middle temple. And on top of having the top temple here, EE actually win this one for a little bit. They get a little bit of extra ammo shot from this one, if not most or all of it.
Celium came up very early too. A lot of times you see Zagara stay in the bottom, but she'd already pushed out the lane. But now Falstad is coming in with a flank too, hitting Xylia with the hammering. We got Gathering Power, or Gathering Storm too on Falstad. Here goes Celium, very close to dying. With Gathering Storm, we're going to see him trying to build up those stacks with hammering. And Misfits finally steal this middle temple away, but with Arthas claiming all of the top one and them getting a fair amount of shots from this mid, it was a good temple phase for EE.
Very good disengage, actually. I really thought that they were going to be trapped and maybe lose 1 or 2, but no, they disengage on time. So now they find themselves with a good, healthy, experienced lead. And Muradin checking on the other side here for the Sea Giants camp is not going to do anything. There's no way they can prevent that for you right now.
Level 4 talents available for both of the teams, and Celium spreading out the creep quite a bit through the lanes. I look at this, and since it's such a big battleground, I wonder if we're gonna have Nidus Network, but it's not as popular.
Oh, Zagara in the middle of the map gets caught out of position and taken out very, very quickly here. Finally, Misfit gathering some momentum. Xylia going down as well. Darkmok going super deep with this one.
He has Sprint of Foe and jumps over to Splendor. Now they're going to jump on and are hoping to catch Zarmany too with Blumby coming up with the Stormbolt, but doesn't connect and Zarmany will get away. But still with 2 kills from that, Misfit are starting to take an experience lead, and with Giants at the bottom and a lot of people there, they can start to take down some of those towers, looking to be able to gain more from this bottom temple phase, which will be next.
And Mopsio is really dominating Hazuops at the top, by the way. Keeps on spamming the death coil, trying to land some Howling Blasts here and there. Really keeping the German player there on low on hit points, making it very difficult for him to stay on that lane.
Because Arthas got all of that top temple in the first phase, they may try to keep somebody up here with the bruisers, clear out the bruisers from Misfits first, and then give up a lot of the shots in the bottom to pick up this top fort. Since it's open, it's taken some damage, but we'll have to see once that phase starts.
That fort actually took some damage already too, so getting these knights now really gonna come in handy, and HotS does such a good job with Frozen Tempest here in deep pushing. Lands a Howling Blast on Illidan, but there's no follow-up. A lot of people are there though. Yeah, so as you say, they're gonna group up towards the top and make sure they take out that temple. I don't think that Illidan and Falstad are gonna be enough to stop this. Illidan, can he get out? He's juking left and right, actually.
He's trying to get away. They're being slowed down by Frozen Tempest, but with no minions here just yet, they don't want to try to take too much damage early on from the fort, especially with Mopsio being low.
Oh, Cilium, this might be a one-way trip. Nurak comes in from behind, he's gonna block him off, and that Zagara is most certainly gonna go down here. Nurak with a great rotation, probably anticipating that this could happen and punishing the Zagara for really trying to, I guess, contest here that temple.
Misfits have been making Cilium's life miserable, finding him everywhere that he is. And then even clearing out the creep too, and will want to continue to do that. Blumby in trouble. Here comes Grampicate with the jump, dodges, Howling Blast, throws out a Stormbolt, gets hit by Impale, still running away.
Okay. Darkmock was a ninja in the previous lifetime.
They're going for it!
There is no way Darkmock wasn't a ninja in the previous life. Like, this guy just gets away every single time. He's so good at juking. And yet again, he's able to get out much earlier level 10 here. For Misfits, I don't think they're going to be able to get a fight out of it, but just to get it in this fashion, they're looking really good right now in this game. Bottom fort already down here. For EE, sure, they took the top one, but the experience lead here is going to be very important.
I'm wondering what they're going to do with it. They could maybe get aggressive, steal away Giants from the side of EE if they want to head down to there. If they catch somebody out, they've got the Heroics.
Yeah, it's just pretty standard. Avatar, Mighty Gust, Draken Laser Drill, Divine Shield, and Metamorphosis. And I think realizing that level 10 was not going to be hit soon enough. Whoa!
Oh, Hasu flying out!
Another ninja escape here from Misfits. Yeah, so realizing that they're level 10 much earlier, they just go for the boss. Actually, use Draken Laser Drill for this. And they're going to secure it very easily. Remember that bottom fort is already down. They could actually push with this. And with the Sea Giants as well.
This is going to be a big push for Misfits.
Actually, that's going to be denied here. EE realizing what's happening. And actually, since Draken Laser Drill was used here, that's going to be the only one heroic that's not available. So they can't really go too far forward, otherwise they might be overextending and paying the high price for it.
They don't have to worry about Mopsio with a Mosh Pit, but they do still have to worry about devouring Ma from Zagara. So not wanting to try to go through the Death Bridge, instead putting damage in the mid fort area. And with Heroics now here for EE, Misfits going to get back out in the lanes, push back the top lane for Falstad, and get ready for the next temple phase.
Mopsio actually so far doing a pretty good job, I think, on the offense, landing some good Howling Blast, pressuring a lot. Hasu ups on the top lane. And for now it's going to be in the mid and bottom temple here, coming up in a second with the Sea Giants from Misfits pushing in at the bottom. Mopsio actually getting caught here a little bit.
They use both Army of the Dead and Ancestral Healing, but push back Misfits. Still, those are two big heroic abilities used, and nothing from Misfits with Draken Laser Drill online in a few seconds. That's going to be very good for them at the start of this temple fight.
They're up one level as well, so EE, I think they are going to have to disengage here. Maybe take that bottom temple, because if they fight in the middle, they are most certainly going to lose here with those missing heroics.
But trading is not what you want to do when you're behind in structures, which they are slightly. It's not the worst thing in the world. They're down a level. They definitely need to get 13 alongside Misfits, though.
I mean, it's a case of what's worse, right? It would be unacceptable, I think, to fight and lose that fight as well. Blumby getting caught a little bit here, but here comes the rest of the team.
Falstad's flying in too. We might see a gust, but he's not going in too aggressively yet. There it is. Mopsio gets pushed right back into range of the Draken Laser Drill. Zagara has thrown out Devouring Maw, and they get 2 kills on Murden and Tychus. May start to turn this around. Remember, Zaelia is Li Ming, but Darkmock is not done yet. Trying to take out Zaelia, going back in, dodging back and forth, but Illidan gets brought down 3 for 1.
And I thought he was going to get the takedown here, but the save here, the last second, Grand Paquette hitting the hill just on time with another beautiful save. So Misfits, they played it really well. They're not experienced it, but here they lost a very important fight, and now the Temples they're going to come into play big time. All of the heroics at the top that you see reloading at the same time are going to be very important to take in consideration for the next fight. And I think that ExcelenteEleccion here, they did exactly what they needed to do to really put themselves back in this game.
Now they are right back in experience, but there's no Army of the Dead, and Ancestral doesn't connect.
Wow.
Arthas will go down, and just like that, Misfits claim the rest of the shots from this temple.
Mopsio really needs to stop doing this here. Really going a little bit too far out and getting punished for it. You can't let that happen against a team as good as Misfits. You need to stay back, play it safer. Illidan now getting those knights on the top right-hand side on his own.
And it looks like Misfits want to maybe siege down this final fort if they can, but response is here from EE. Yeah, Falstad in the bottom, so the tri-lane soak is set up for Misfits. They want to keep that experience advantage that they've gotten so far over EE.
I think it's a good timing, I guess, to get these camps, like nothing's happening. You know, the lanes are quite equal, no one is pushed in here just yet. There is a chance actually Misfits, if they want to, they could group at the bottom and try and contest the opponent's Siege Giants, but it's not like one of the priorities here right now. I guess getting a level 16 earlier and trying to get a fight is going to be more important, so they need to be soaking across multiple lanes.
Picking up the bruisers for EE also helped them defend versus Misfits bruisers, and they all just moved off and, like you said, are starting to pick up the Giants at the bottom, seeing if maybe they can have a camp pushing for them. Oh, Lumpy has to use Avatar, gets stunned. Dwarf tosses away, they use Mighty Gust and keep Lumpy alive, but this is kind of the situation we saw EE in for the last Temple phase. It's not quite here yet, but that is still a long cooldown, the Avatar.
That one of the longest, actually, of all the heroics, so that could be something that they're missing. When one of the next big, actually, if you look at this, 67 seconds on the Avatar, it was like 30 seconds for the boss. Realizing this, if ExcelenteEleccion felt confident enough here, being equal on levels and talents, they could just go for that boss here to try and force a bad fight out of Misfits. But with the temples coming up, I guess that's where the priority is going to be. They're trying to punish somebody here.
Haven't caught anybody yet. Lumpy being safer, not dwarf tossing in aggressively. Giants will be pushing in favor of EE for the duration of this Temple phase.
They're healthy at the bottom. They're going to do a lot of damage down there because they're completely going to be ignored.
Falstad
flies to the middle, but not going to go and defend there.
They do have the 16 advantage, or will have it for a little bit. If they can get away, take it out maybe.
Yeah, I think Falstad is going to have to defend this. They realized that they were going to take too much damage. I mean, structural damage, like on this map, is very important. Those temples, they do direct structural damages. So if you let some of these camps do a little bit too much damage, keep in mind there's the boss as well. If a boss came into play at the bottom and that gate is gone, that could be game or even a keep lost.
But he doesn't have flight, so he is trekking his way slowly up.
Liming's missing. Liming's at the top, so I think they have to let this go. And oh, he has the vision. Liming's actually going to leave the top temple, and they're going to try to go for a fight. He wants to try and make something happen right now.
Lumpy is getting thrown away from the team. There was her ability to throw him back used, but Xylee is going to jump back in, and Lumpy once again has used Avatar. Dragon Laser Drill has been dealt with, and Zarmony gets healed back up. And a lot of heroics being used on both sides, not getting a kill quite yet. Blumby gets out by the skin of his teeth, but doesn't.
Mutalist takes him out, and Splendor is gonna get chased and sniped as well. A big win here for EE, and a massive call. They could have just stayed top with Liming and, you know, kept that, but they had the vision. They knew they could get a good engagement. They go for it, and now it's not gonna be just Temple Fire that they're gonna have. They're also gonna have that boss at the bottom lane, moving in and trying to take out a keep.
This looks very good for EE. Finally, maybe feeling more comfortable here at the stage at Gamescom, figuring out what it's like to play in front of such a big crowd, because now they have been able to 2 fights in a row take out several members of Misfits, get a boss here on Sky Temple, which is very strong. Illidan will claim the final shots on top, but this is a later game boss. We're getting to 13 minutes.
That was just a very poor engagement, you know, like forcing not only a Gust but a Divine Shield to save that Muradin. He needs to be careful, he needs to stay far back, because that Divine Shield is supposed to be booked for that Illidan to go in and wreak havoc on the backline. He went for marked for death as well on the level 16, which if it comes into play is going to be a pretty big deal, but so far that Illidan has been struggling a lot more than he wanted to, I think, in this game.
Well, yeah, usually when you see an Illidan, you have a Tassadar or an Abathur to help along with a support, and you're relying solely on Uther. He's doing what he can. He picked up Benediction so that maybe he can get a couple of big Holy Lights to heal him back up, or a couple of stuns in a row if he needs to stun someone out to get Illidan out of trouble, but just relying on the Divine Shield, and especially, as you mentioned, having to use it to get someone else out of a bad spot is just not quite ideal, what they would be liking to do with Illidan.
Yeah, Muradin went for Stone Form, so I think if he takes care of the tanking, if he stays at the front, doesn't die, takes a lot of the damage, then Illidan is going to be able to hit his stride eventually with the Divine Shield coming into play as well. That's the best scenario here for Misfits. That's what they need to hit in some of those fights, and they're going to have a good opportunity here, I think, very soon to try and set up for that. But EE, they've been fighting very well here in this game, to be honest. I'm quite surprised at how well they're playing. It's 5-5 in takedowns, and they're really holding their own.
They are. It's been a boss each, but EE has a keep that is far lower in health, or they've taken down a keep far lower to health, and also have a good giant push on bottom as they clear up that bottom lane.
They waited for a long time to capture that. I think they realized that the temples were about to come up, and they captured that just a little bit before, and Nuborak is soaking that at the bottom as well. So that's going to be even more lane pressure at the bottom against a Misfit that, you know, they want to be at the top, setting up for a fight and fighting, not defending at the bottom. Maybe I guess they could do a fast start, but since he's at the top, he might have to Hearthstone back home, defend, and then fly into the fight. Misfits actually going for the engagements as a surprise here. Anubarak is very far away.
Well, if they can win the fight right now, then they can go back and defend it. Darkmox going in deep for Cillium, who uses Devouring Maw and Ancestral Healing, brings him back in. Darkmox has already used Metamorphosis. They don't have Divine Shield either, so this is it. They have to make the fight work with this, but Darkmox is eliminated.
Wow. Divine Shield was used to save the Tychus here and make sure it stayed in this fight, but because of that, they didn't have it for the Illidan. Once more, nice dodge here on the Howling Blast. And Misfits, they're going to be able to get out, but being 5 against 4 and having Sea Giants at the bottom, there is no reason to prioritize the capture of this temple at the top. So EE, they're just going to meet up towards this area and try to do some structural damage on these keeps.
But everyone else here from Misfits are wanting to defend, and with no Arthas here, it would be a 4 versus 4. So everyone from EE will back off. Storm Talents, so close for both of these teams, Todd.
Yeah, they finally are going to be rich here in the second from Bosis. Rewind on the Rhaegar, Fury of the Storm on Zagara, Legion on Northrend on the Arthas, Hardened Shield on the Nubarak.
That Fury of the Storm is an interesting one. A lot of times with Maw now, it's Tyrant Maw, so if you get a huge one, you can, I think it's 4 people. If you get 4, then the cooldown is already back online. You can use it again to pull somebody else down, but...
Which is crazy.
I know, right? 2 Devouring Maws in a fight seems unfair.
Especially when you're this good with her, you know, and you stay very patient with your Moss. But on the other side, we've got Rewind on the Muradin available now. Epic mounts, obviously, on the Falstad. Sizzling attacks.
Ooh, okay.
From the Tychus, Redemption on Uther, and Demonic Form on the Illidan.
With the sizzling attacks and Titan Grenade, dealing bonus damage to heroes equal to 5% of their maximum health. Tychus, this is full-on tank killer Tychus mode. He is going after Arthas and Anubarak.
They've been struggling to win fights here at Misfits. They're behind on takedowns. The thing is, the Divine Shield is so important for the Illidan, but every single time, somebody else forces it to be used. I mean, the support at this point, you know, he's doing his best. He's trying to save those heroes, but they need to place themselves maybe a little bit better. And I guess props to EE as well for setting up, you know, every single time they snipes perfectly, that they are the ones forcing the Divine Shield on those heroes other than Illidan every single time.
Demonic Form will help with that too, because now he's got Relentless.
Yeah. If you look at the heroic damage, it's so much smaller right now on Misfits than it is from EE. You know, we have 41k and 40k, sorry, 42k in the lead here with Liming against 35k from the Tychus, and really not that much damage, like especially like this Illidan only on 27. Would love to have more than that and reach the backline and do his work.
All right, Misfits are drawing EE to them. Hasu is off to the side. Blumby using Dwarf Toss aggressively to jump in, knowing he has the Relentless off of that. Almost getting hit by the stun. Cleanse comes out on Nurak. Here comes the Fly and the Gust, pushing Mopsio into the team. Misfits are kind of separated, and the Maw is only going to make that more so. And they're going to jump into that Divine Shield used on Blumby. Splendor is low going in to do that, but he is Uther. He gives them heals. Ancestral Healing heals back up Mopsio. Cillium finally goes down. That's the first kill for drop.
The boss here taking down Tychus, doing so much damage to him that they could finish him. That was a crazy fight here, gusting the opponents into the boss for a second. Mopsio able to get out, peeling for each other, and it's now going to be a 4-on-4 with only Tychus and Zagara going down. Do they choose to fight anyway? With the temples coming up, it would be better to just kind of regroup, recoup, and then go for these temples.
There was a really big minion push on the bottom. I think a double giant camp that brought down the bottom keep to half health. So that is a great win for Misfits, but EE has the bottom temple, and that is starting to do work on the bottom keep, which had already been brought low for Misfits.
Yeah, I think Misfits are going to try to prevent that here. Splendor and Blumby at the bottom. They need to chase away Zarmony here on the Anubarak. But Illidan on the other side here, looking to try and catch somebody, forces Rhaegar and Liming back. They're trying to trap the two heroes at the bottom, moving in with 4 against 2. And Blumby, I think he's done for it.
He is trying to jump out. He has Avatar in 6 seconds. He's staying healthy. Hasselhoff's and Darkmocker here too. It's a 4v4.
Yeah, but Zaga will be much faster back into the fight here, as Tychus as well is running towards the direction. Misfits, luckily for them, they cannot disengage here for now, maybe realizing that Zagara was going to be back there earlier. If they set up on the temple and take a good fight here, this is E's game to win, I think.
Only 1 keep remains for Misfits, so they have to start winning these fights. Big hammering, Cillium is low, Army the Dead Pop, Darkmock not wanting to let Zagara go, but again, the Ancestral Healing saves them, but Xaylia was very, very low and going back into Zagara. That's a 2-kill. Misfits still going. Mopsio will drop. Zarmony running away, has the shielding. Here comes Hasuops, and he's just drawing the team away at this point, but that's it. 4 people down, all of Misfits left, and they can run to the keep.
And that was the engagement that Illidan had been waiting for the entire game. Gilly finally gets it, and reigns supreme. Ends up with pretty much full hit points, did his job entirely perfectly. Dragon Laser Drill did so much damage in this fight, and Misfits, this wasn't the easiest game by all means, but they stayed patient, they picked their spots, and eventually they get the fight they had been looking for the entire game and finish it with a 2-0 score. They will advance on to the semi-finals that will be played tomorrow to face Fnatic.
We finally get a Misfits Fnatic rematch in the semi-finals. Last time they faced each other in the semis at Valencia, Fnatic had a 3-0, but Misfits look way different than they did at that event. So strong, getting through the groups without dropping a single game. Very impressive showing here for Misfits, but EE, I feel like every game we see from them is getting better and better, and they're not out of it yet. Of course, they will play the winner of the next match.
That was really close, that second lap.
It was.
Here. Really, really was. I thought for a moment they might be able to do it, but that last fight just not quite good enough from them. Maybe they were missing a little bit of something, the positioning, not the crispest, but when you lose against guys like Misfit, you can definitely keep your head up high and I guess try to go from there, try to improve. Definitely a newer team on the other side, so.
And you forced Misfits' hands too. EE absolutely did by taking out 2 of the keeps there. So a great job from them. I'm looking forward to seeing them play later on, but for now we're gonna head back to the panel. Actually, I lied. We're gonna go to the panel very soon though. I just get so excited to hear their analysis. Oh, there they go.
Thank you. Have any doubt that Grody won't make it in time? I don't think so. He's here.
He made it.
Good looking, handsome as always.
Good thing we didn't follow Grubby.
All right, guys, but hey, that was a good series. I mean, EE did go down, but hey, they showed us a good fight, and especially Misfits, once again proving that they are still a part of the top 3 in Europe. Looking very, very strong, haven't actually dropped a single map. But Dred, we were talking during the game about why, or one of the potential reasons why it didn't really look so solid the entire time. Blumby had a little bit of a rough game, don't you agree?
Yeah, like getting caught out in the mid lane and then also in team fights, a lot of the times he was drawing so many resources that the Illidan really couldn't do anything on his own. Every time you have an Illidan on your team, you never want the secondary target to be babied, right? Because he becomes only a monster when he has Uther to back him in every way, shape, and form. When Blumby on the Murden is taking too much damage, it puts it in a position where no longer can the Illidan thrive, and the Arthas then gains insane value.
Yeah, absolutely. And Grubby, anything that you have to say about that Illidan? It looked like he didn't really come to fruition in the early mid game.
It was interesting. Illidan had one objective. It's jumping on Zagara all the time. But every time the Ancestral Healing saves Zagara on the brink of death. At that moment, Illidan used most of his juice, as did Uther. And at that moment, Illidan, I was only looking at Darkmark on Illidan. Suddenly, he was trying to find a way out of the fight, oftentimes already having to go through multiple hostiles, and was often unable to do so. So it was a much more difficult game for Misfits. Worthy challenger this time.
And I think we can definitely continue on that with Jayhao, who's going to take you to the first replay.
Yeah, I mean, to further your point, especially when we focus on that Illidan play, you can see at the bottom, Hasuab's initiated this, but if you look at the bottom right, there's Uther. He kind of gets zoned out by the boss there. And then what you're going to see is you're going to see Illidan and everybody here in just a moment. They start to go in. They get on top of Zagara, but what Zagara has is something called Devouring Maw. Now all of a sudden, Uther doesn't have a heal target. He's forced to go down, but he realizes this is the moment, since he's level 20, he's going to sacrifice himself because he's going to be back. He's trying to get those Ghost Uther heals, and this fight raged on. It actually went in favor of EE because of that one maw the minute they were able to get there, but we also saw the Ancestral land in the middle of all that, and it just, to further Grubby's point, they were just so excellently countering, I guess excellently doing things, is nothing there.
There's one thing to note from that replay too. Like, that was the first time we've seen Misfits seem not on the same page. Like, the fact that Blumby at full health Muradin got the Divine Shield, that was because they stacked on top of the Illidan, who opened with Metamorphosis. So the miscommunication there, because obviously we see Splendor Suicide right after that point, should have, because he had Redemption, kept Illidan alive for a long period of time. If he came back and had that D-Shield, they win that fight. So it was because that lack of communication that we saw, and it happened a couple of times through that game, why that was so ugly for them.
It was super close. That last fight that we saw in that bottom lane, Illidan finally got that kill because it was Zagara and Li Ming that were down there. He finally got one, followed up on the other.
Blumby had to help. He was jumping in like a second Illidan.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really cool to see like how Misfits drafted that Illidan as well. I mean, we haven't really seen Illidan coming out from them at all, and then they pick it last to surprise their opponents, to prevent them from picking counters, and I think that plan just worked very, very well. On the flip side, EE guys, what can they do to improve and come out on top against GIC, which is going to be their next opponent?
My first step would be not drafting exactly what your opponent wants you to, and the only other thing would just keep doing what they're doing. They look, from game 1 to 4, they look like a completely different team.
Absolutely, and GIC is a rather aggressive team, so you could say that sometimes they do have a similar, play style like Misfits did, because their team comps were also very straightforward and offensive.
Yeah, if you see you're against an aggressive composition, you suddenly have 40% more options of how you can play. You just have to take something that doesn't have initiation, only defense, and good map control, and then you'll also do fine. So it opens up a lot of options.
What do you think about one of the most defensive and protective warriors in the game, Johanna? No entrance whatsoever.
Surprising, considering when it was considered a mid-level hero, Johanna showed more presence in Europe than ever before. You know, I don't know.
The good thing I think that we see from EE is the fact that they were able to punish a little bit of the rotations from Misfits there. I mean, when they caught somebody out, they were able to take advantage of it and kind of force the fight into their hands. And I think that's something that they can do against a team like GIZ, who tends to, we see them be very aggressive with positioning, not just as a team, but individually. I think that's one of the teams that when we look at them, sometimes they get caught out. And I'd really like to see EE follow up on their performance here. As you said, they've looked like a lot different team from the beginning of the day until where they're at now. I really think that they have a very, very good chance of getting through.
Yeah, if you can even make one game look close against Misfits.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah,
it's almost as good as a victory. And you know what else is good, guys? The bracket. We're going to take a look at what it currently looks like. There we go. Group B, we see that Misfits came out on top here in this group, securing themselves the spot to the playoffs. So right now we're going to have Misfits versus Fnatic from Group A, who are the second slot, right? It's a pretty good match. It's going to be a pretty sick best of 3 as well. Best of 5, excuse me. Best of 5 is going to be in the semifinals.
Going to be tomorrow, of course.
Yep, tomorrow, of course. And in the lower half of the bracket, we see GIZ. You know, duking it out between themselves and Jabronis. I mean, Jabronis is a team that we cannot really count out just yet by any means. They actually surprised us against EE, and I wouldn't actually say that they are the underdog anymore against GIZ.
I don't think either team can declare themselves the favorite either. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is like these teams, we're not 100% sure what we're going to get from these teams. We know we're going to get a competitive match. It's just, I don't know really if this is going to come down to draft, whether it's going to come down to play style. I think it's going to be a mixed bag as far as what we'll see, but it's going to be the team that I think plays a little bit safer and focuses on rotation.
Good luck trying that with GIZ.
It can get a little out of hand.
I mean, GIZ on the flip side, they excel when it comes to individual play by certain key players, BKB for example. Is there anything they can throw at the Jabronis judging from the previous matches? Is there any weakness they could see in their best of?
Well, do you remember that full global comp that they were trying on Infernal Shrines against Misfits? The Haka, Brightwing.
Yep.
They still love the Haka. Like, it takes more than one game to get BKB to be dissuaded from using that one. If they're against someone who has a little bit less of a good team fight, who capitalizes a little bit less on the immediate pressure to make something happen immediately, to counter global presence, then this is definitely something that could put GIZ with an experienced lead and then get the ganks in once the Haka ports in.
Yeah, absolutely. And on this flip side, we saw Dikazoy here for Jabronis struggling sometimes on that false hit. So I think he really has to step it up, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to be on point if he's going to be able to pull away a win in the next series. The only other thing, I think, is GIZ with the Arthas and where he comes into play. GIZ right now has been kind of targeting a little bit of different heroes, but typically when they seem the most core, it's based around Arthas and it's going to be BKB. So I think that might be a good way to be approaching the draft if I am Jabronis.
The thing about that is that Danatan had high priority on Arthas as well. So it could be a battle of who gets the early Arthas.
Yeah.
So it very easily could be a battle of that early draft phase.
All right, guys, but we have said plenty of words, so it's time to calm down and cool down a little bit and send you in a short commercial break. But don't go anywhere. We're going to follow up here with that losers match, of course, between GIZ and the Jabronis. So more Heroes of the Storm goodness incoming very shortly.